You're listening to Two Chunks and a Hunk, a movie podcast where we give pumps and dumps.
Hello and welcome to Two Chunks and a Hunk. My name is Jordan Wonders, and this week I am your chunk.
I'm Doge, and that is my wee lad Chunkly.
And I'm Carter.
Turn around and don't come back. It's undoubtedly a hunk.
Nice.
Nice. Well, it is undoubtedly
It is.
A hunk. Yeah.
Can you explain
let's
where
talk
the
about that.
undoubt comes from?
So just this yesterday,
Sure.
I experienced an insulation of Smaug because my attic is officially insulated and our air conditioning is no longer an issue, just in time for the weather to be really nice.
Excellent.
And to already not notice the difference, but I'm so glad it's done. It made me feel hunky for sure.
Yeah, I bet it did. So before we get to talking about this movie too much and at too great a depth, I want to bring up something because we haven't even talked about what movie this is yet. But before we do, did you know that this nameless movie is the only movie in all of the Lord of the Rings movies without Gollum?
Was there a shout out in Five Armies?
Yep.
Is he in Fellowship?
Yep. Briefly tortured.
We see his hand, Shire Baggins.
Yeah.
Really?
Yep.
This is also one of all of them without Yoda.
Yeah.
So,
and I think that's
that was interesting.
a great loss for the Lord of the Rings community.
This is a big piece of trivia that not a ton of people notice when they're watching this movie is that, and I didn't even catch this the first time through, like as I was watching this, I was noticing that it's bad. That's probably the thing that most people don't even notice at all.
that it's not good.
So I've
just
got
bad.
a new section of the show that I'd like to launch into, and it requires some explanation before we start. But it's something I've been workshopping for the past 35 seconds, and I'm sure we've all here at this table at least read IMDb trivia before.
We have.
And as you start to get sort of past the beginning of the good ones, you start to venture into trivia that doesn't really make sense.
yeah.
And it's stuff that's like, that's not trivia. You're just saying things about this movie. So I would like to, I see you both grabbing your phones, put them down.
Oh.
I would like to start a new segment that I like to call Second Half IMDb Trivia,
Okay. Oh, good.
where we deliver IMDb trivia that would have a less than half satisfactory rate on the
Bad
list.
trivia.
Got it.
Yeah.
Such as this is one of the only Lord of the Rings movies without Yoda in it.
Definitely one of the only six.
Yeah,
without
one of the
Yoda.
only
Yeah.
six Lord of the Rings movies without Yoda in it.
Okay.
I would like to go first. Fun fact. At no point in this movie do we even get a single glimpse of the Empire State Building.
Wow.
A lot of people don't know. A lot of people don't know.
I've got a fun fact too. So one of the very first trees that we see in Mirkwood, not the one that Bilbo climbs.
Right.
One of the first trees that we see, Ian McKellen actually requested that tree be made into a dining table.
Oh, wow.
And the carpenter refused.
Ah, interesting.
Yeah.
So if you notice very closely when you watch the credits, there's an actor named Martin Freeman whose name appears in the credits. That's a reference to the fact that he plays Bilbo in this movie.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So, this is one that kind of blew my mind when I was first discovering it. The spiders in the Mirkwood forest, not actual size.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, wow.
Yeah, I know. The effects make you really think like, whoa, those spiders are big. But I'm telling you, if
That's not their actual
if you look
size.
carefully, you can tell they're not actually there at all.
What in the world?
And speaking of not there at all, if you notice, almost 99.9% of locations and things present in this movie don't even exist in the real world.
Man, I'm going to have to chew on that one.
I know.
That one's crazy.
I know.
You know, that's almost as crazy as what I saw. So did y'all hear about the voiceover that never was?
No.
So Sting himself
Sure. Oh, wow.
was actually going to voice over the dagger Sting.
Yeah. Is he the voice-
Interesting.
And
Sting
he was
played by
just
Sting.
going, Sting played by Sting.
Sting by Sting.
But they said that's actually pretty ridiculous. I
Yeah.
know most of this is, but that is too far.
You know,
it's kudos.
It's weird because now that you mentioned that, I remember that originally the character Edward Cullen from Twilight was going to play the necromancer.
Oh, wow.
But then he realized that the part was necromancer and not necromancer.
Oh.
And so he decided to bail out.
Wow. Oh my
See, I would have
gosh.
been confused if I was him too.
Yeah.
Okay,
It gets a
that
little
makes
hairy
sense.
in there sometimes.
Yeah.
The meals at the Prancing Pony Inn are simply plates of bread with a couple of grapes and a slice of fruit. That's what the waitress served Thorin and Gandalf when they met each other there. That's real.
Did you read that from
That's real bad IMDb trivia.
Maybe that's what the bit should be. Can you find the actual
worst?
the actual trivia?
Pick the one that's actually
of
on
the
IMDb.
6 or 3 or 5? Which one is actual IMDb
Honestly,
trivia?
I've seen trivia on IMDb that's like, if you'll notice in this movie, the character of Bilbo Baggins is a reference to Bilbo Baggins from the Lord of the Rings trilogy.
Those are my favorites
Oh
at
my
the
God.
very bottom. And it's like, if you notice closely, this movie was filmed with cameras. Right? It's like 1 out of 1 people found this helpful.
Yeah, it is the guy who posted.
Yep.
I always love the ones that preface if you notice. It's like, hey,
Yeah.
listen, this is going to hurt a little bit. You have to add more effort to watching a movie.
Yeah.
It's going to be worth it, though.
If you notice, there is music accompanying some of the scenes in this film.
And in many of the music, it's a good one.
In many of the music, it's a good one.
Well, okay, we've kind of tiptoed around it, so I think it's finally time that we say the name of this movie, which of course is The Hobbit, the Desolation of Smaug, or The Desolation of Philosophers for our friends across the pond. And of course, this movie is the 4th part of our series known lovingly and globally as Do You Believe in Magic? So guys, is it time that we start talking about this movie?
Let's do it.
Then Doozer, Hooser
Hooser.
would be better for a synopsis than user
Oh, God.
for a snoozer.
Exactly.
Please?
For this to release on a, don't forget, Tuesday.
Oh,
Happy
Day.
Toozer Chunks Toozer. The Hobbit, The Desolation of Smaug, or The Desolation of Philosophers for our friends across the pond, begins with a flashback,
as all good movies
as
do.
all good Hobbit movies do.
Yeah.
And from this flashback, this is whenever Gandalf and Thorin decide to go on this big adventure and have a burglar to steal the Arkenstone.
Which matters.
It does.
guess.
And so this movie really picks up where the last one left off. And there, I don't see, that's the thing. It's tricky to synopsize this movie because it's really episodic. It's like we have this little adventure, and then we have this little adventure, then we have this little adventure, and it's a chore to watch through, and it's a chore to kind of sit back and explain. So basically, we start at the beginning of this movie where we pick up, and then this is the movie where we finally make it to Erebor and ending in a confrontation with Smaug, where we think there's going to be some resolution, but surprise, we just end on a cut to black cliffhanger when Smaug flies off to destroy Lake Town.
Yeah.
Do you guys feel like we need more detail than
Nope.
that? Or are we ready
We'll
to
get into
start?
the
I don't,
details.
and I'll
Rock
tell you
and
on
roll.
that. I mean, we are absolutely jumping to the very end, but I need to, because when it cuts away right there, I don't think I felt good about that.
Yeah.
Like that it just cut right there.
Yeah.
And I remember because I was seeing these in theaters, and
Yeah,
anything
sure,
that has Lord of the Rings attached to it, I will see in theaters. And I've gone through all of this, and that's still back in my day when it was actually a midnight premiere.
Yep.
And
Yep.
this is a 2-hour and 40-minute movie.
Yeah.
And roughly at about 3:30 a.m. because of all the previews, it just breaks off like that. This was the first time I vividly remember being upset about this franchise.
Yeah.
I was like, because you're going to have to wait a year.
Yeah.
You're going to have to wait a year to actually see. We don't really even see. There's only reference to past Desolation of Smaug.
Yeah.
There is no desolation. And that's the thing. Like, that's the biggest bummer is that this movie ends on the bad kind of cliffhanger. Like,
Yeah.
and a good example of a bad kind of cliffhanger is the end of The Force Awakens. Like that, we're cutting that beat in the middle. There is no resolution of that beat. A better cliffhanger would be Luke saying, "Hello, Rey," or Luke grabbing the lightsaber. There has to be some resolution of that beat to have a satisfactory cliffhanger, to not feel like we're missing information. And then we totally get that kind of cliffhanger here. Like we're missing information.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I have an issue with the cliffhanger nature of both of these movies in a way.
Yeah.
If only because the end of the first Hobbit ends with Smaug opening his eye. And then when we meet Smaug, he's still asleep in the same position that he was in.
I think he just had to pee. I think he woke up to pee and then was like,
My alarm is not going to go off for a couple more minutes.
I can still eke out a quick snoozer if I'm careful.
I can go right back to sleep.
I'll hit snooze 7
So what's
more
interesting though is like
times.
cliffhangers actually mean something in this. I could have made the argument it's like, no, people know the story of the Hobbit, so you don't need a cliffhanger. I know what's about to happen. I don't actually.
Yeah.
And this movie proves that. I have no idea what's going to happen in something that was written by a brilliant mind 70 years ago.
Hey, by the way, today is the anniversary of the Hobbit novel's release.
is it really?
Like in like 1938.
70 years then this year.
Yep.
Right? 70 or 80? 70. 80.
80.
80.
80.
So the story of the Hobbit,
Good, manly, strong number.
the story of the Hobbit is 80 years old today publicly, and it's cool that we get to celebrate the desecration of its grave.
The desecration of Smaug.
Yeah, sure.
Desecration of Smaug.
Yeah.
On the subject of you never know what's going to happen with something that was written, especially with the Hobbit series, I stumbled upon something that was called 8 Changes the Hobbit movies. In the Hobbit movies, you didn't know were a huge deal. Oh, but I did. But I'm just using this for reference.
Sure. Yeah, I was about to say, careful.
We talked about this already, but Azog, the pale orc, supposed to be dead. He's not even supposed to be alive at this time.
yeah.
We knew that. I'm going to just do some, someone said Toriel.
Yep.
She's
Oh
not
my gosh. We'll get there.
We've talked about that. Bilbo doesn't save the doors from the trolls.
Yep.
Gandalf saves them.
Yep.
Legolas ain't there. I know that's one of them.
The barrels were sealed.
Yeah.
Okay. Bard was not a bargeman. He was a bowman. He was a head of
Which is
security.
Which is why it makes sense that for what happens in the next Hobbit movie that he does, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Spoilers, kind of, but it doesn't matter.
That's assuming people
And then-
are invested in this narrative.
two of the bigger ones, and this is all just, I guess, a preface, an outline to what we'll be talking about.
Yeah.
Gandalf had discovered the necromancer Sauron connection well before.
Way earlier, yeah.
Well before that.
Before the
and-
ring was even in Gollum's hands.
Right. And most importantly, the dwarves did not fight Smaug.
Right.
But we'll get to all these things. But that's just to say this is way off. And what's so cool is when I'm reading articles like this and big fans or just anybody who's read the books are discounting some things that happen in the movies, it's as if they're referencing history books because they are giving you actual dates that Tolkien wrote.
And here's my thing. I'm saying this hesitantly and carefully. I'm okay with some creative license with stuff that is from IPs that already exist.
Same.
I'm okay with that. But when it comes into like, you know what I could do? I could probably improve this 80-year-old story that like one of the greatest writers ever wrote by adding in this love story. No, you can't. You will make it worse.
Yeah, for sure.
And I don't know. We'll get there, right? Yeah.
First stop along the way, in my memory, seems to be Mirkwood, right? Do we do anything of note before?
Not really, no.
You talking about Bjorn?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Bjorn.
we do go to Bjorn, don't we?
We go to him before the spiders, correct? Mm-hmm. Let's talk about Bjorn. Bjorn was my favorite part of the book when I read this.
He was my favorite part of the book too. And what I'll say though, I will give the art direction credit. Like they have continued, it has been consistent that the land of Middle Earth feels tangible and it's gorgeous. And they do a really good job of doing from book to movie kind of stuff with that, like Bjorn's house.
And his like
Mirkwood Forest.
she-bear form was awesome.
Yeah, it was amazing.
Yeah, so Bjorn was great. They stop off at his house to hide from the orcs, correct? Because they're chased away from
what are the wolves called
the
again?
wargs?
Yeah, the wargs. Yeah,
from the big purple CG sunset, chased into Bjorn's house.
Yeah,
Guys, I'm going to super dump. This is going to be the earliest super dump ever.
Yeah, do it.
What was so irritating to me that I absolutely don't think was really a part of the books. Did anybody else have trouble deciding if the dwarves are protagonists or antagonists?
yeah.
What on earth? They're not supposed to be between like that. Not even Thorin.
Yeah.
But they all feel like they've got a Thorin in their side. The whole movie, like anybody who tries to be hospitable to them, yes, I get it. Like Gimli, right. The good manifestation of that is Gimli.
Yes.
Like, okay, that makes sense.
Right.
But he does also love people.
Yeah.
But how did you manage to get all 13 of them to just feel like they're just
crappy? Yeah.
they're crappy and they're complaining about everything.
Yeah.
And it even happened like once it got past the river and they get saved by Bard, and they don't trust him or anything. It's like, you don't have any other options. This is not what it's
That's
like.
my thing.
Like,
They
he
do not
couldn't-
operate like a team of people who will do anything to reach their goal.
Yes, you've taken 80% of the cast and made I'm not really sure what they're supposed to be,
And
that sucks.
We'll get to what they've done with the other 20% of the cast.
Right.
But yeah, you're right. I completely agree. That's not my super dump, but that's definitely a dump for me.
That was just killing me because and it was offensive. It's as if like they came into the home of what one of my favorite characters was, and then they're just being like that. I get the fear, but there's just all of this antagonistic kind of stuff that I was not about.
And it made me mad because Gandalf was making it clear that like this is a man that should be respected because he's like, I don't know. It was just
Anyways,
the result of that is that the dwarves in this movie come across as even more cartoony than last time because their motives become 50-50. There's no gray in the middle.
I would have rather watched a movie where it's just Bilbo and Gandalf.
Yeah.
Accomplishing everything.
You're pushing me.
Sorry, I'm
you're
not gonna do it
pushing
right
me.
now.
Let's wait. But you're pushing me. But let's wait. We'll get there.
So we leave Bjorn's house and we go to the next adventure that we go to. I mean, it really does feel like
The
it's
spiders?
like a couple of different.
Yes, we go to the
30-minute episodes.
Mirkwood, and then
Yep.
Gandalf decides that he's going to head to what's it called again? What's the name?
Dol Guldur?
Yeah, Dol Guldur. Yeah,
Door.
yeah. And so he decides that he's
With
going to head
Radagast
there,
the pooped.
check his stuff out. Oh no! First he goes to the tomb
He goes to the tomb
of the Nine Kings, which is choice.
Yeah, I was cool with that.
Yeah,
I wish Radagast wasn't there.
I wish Radagast wasn't there either.
I dig Radagast.
We don't need Radagast only exists. Radagast exists for the same reason that like thought bubbles exist in comic books. You
That's
know what I mean?
funny. That's
Because
really good.
Radagast is only there so Gandalf has somebody to
play off
explain
of.
the
Yeah.
plot to.
Yeah.
I dig Radagast. I don't have a problem with it.
It's something that I was made clear to me in this movie. If you take my favorite characters in the movie in terms of how they were acted, how they were played, and then you write independent things for them that didn't really exist or they're part of the
Fine with
footnotes,
it.
totally fine
Yeah,
with it.
yeah.
Anything Gandalf's a part of, please.
Well,
please.
it circles back to what I loved about the first Hobbit, which was when Gandalf was doing stuff alone, it was stuff that I could see the global impact in the world of Middle Earth. I could see
Because he does that at the beginning of Fellowship too, right?
Right. And when he's off doing stuff on his own, I can go, oh, okay, so it's the necromancer. So, the Witch King's got to be somewhere doing his thing. And
But
like,
see,
we know
that's
that.
like that stuff is great, but that's not part of the story.
No,
You know
you're
what I mean? And
correct.
I think that's why we get this that's why I personally have such a hard time just saying flat out these three movies are bad and I don't like them. Because there are parts that I really love.
Right.
But it's the parts that ultimately don't belong in the story of the dwarves retaking their home.
Well, and it feels like, I want to say, you can't pick and choose the extra stuff that you want in the movie and you don't. But like, no, I'm gonna.
Yeah,
like,
that's what-
I like
that's what
some of
Warner
it and I
Brothers did.
don't.
Yeah.
Like that's how it goes. But should we talk about Mirkwood a little bit? And the
We can talk
spiders?
about Mirkwood. I think they've done a good job because we have seen several. I think it takes a little something different to give us different vibes in different forests.
Sure.
I'm sorry, that was a weird way to
No,
phrase it.
you're
but
right,
like,
though.
Right.
We've seen Fanghorn before.
Yeah.
We've seen Mirkwood. We've seen where Rivendell is.
Yeah.
And it's all got a different vibe. And Mirkwood did feel more wild.
Yes. Yeah.
Like for the wood elves.
Did you
and-
know that they actually had to desaturate the color so much to make it look dead that all of the actors basically had their faces painted completely red so that they would retain color?
Oh my gosh, I didn't know
Is
that.
that bad trivia or good
No,
trivia?
it's good. That's real trivia.
Wow.
And all of the so anything like mushroomy or anything in the forest was painted essentially like Alice in Wonderland neon so that it would also retain color.
Wow.
After they desaturated this scene so much, which felt a little refreshing after how overly saturated everything else is in this series.
They did a great job of showing how they were getting lost. I loved all the little
Yeah.
tactics for when Bilbo's looking down and he's walking backwards, but
Oh,
he's
it's so
walking
cool.
forwards. That was really cool.
And I gotta say, maybe one of the worst scenes in the movie is him cresting over the top of the trees
With all the butterflies?
with all the butterflies.
It looks
and
like the scene in Tarzan where he takes it. He's like, "Come with me now and see my world," and it's
Yeah.
like the top of the trees with like all the pretty
Yes.
birds. You know what I mean?
But he comes up, the butterflies look terrible, the trees look terrible. I kept noticing that every time he would step, I was expecting a little bit of a bounce on a branch, but he just didn't
way.
move.
No, that boy's on a stage.
Yeah, and the sunset in the distance looked awful. I mean, it was bad, but I gotta say, I was making fun of him earlier. The spiders were horrifying.
Yeah,
to
they're
me.
the worst.
Fully hated them.
Yeah.
And so
there
pump
were-
on them because I hated them so
So
much.
this was you. I know for a fact that your least favorite thing in all of creation is spiders.
yeah, I hate
Same.
spiders so much.
Okay, so this has been a bad 2 weeks for you guys.
Yeah.
with Harry Potter
For sure
and Ben.
arachnophobic.
Yeah. Okay.
Like oh my God, I think it's Bomber that grabs its fangs.
Yeah, no, I couldn't
and
do
they
that.
pull
They
it
pull its
all-
legs off.
oh,
And all I could
oh,
think is like, he wasn't biting him with his legs.
No
He
way,
could
why'd you
still
do
get him.
that? There were so many things, like so many pieces of dwarf choreography in this. That's like we got these 6 dwarfyography.
Yep.
But they just like pull his legs off, or like they. You mentioned Bomber. Bomber's the fat one, right?
Right.
He's the worst thing that's ever happened to any movie.
That brings me to something I want to say. The Magooing in this movie is off the charts.
Ultra
And
Magoo.
I feel like about 80% of what the dwarves do in this movie, you could score to like,
Yep.
and it wouldn't feel out of place at all.
Yep.
But they could have, back at the very beginning of this trilogy,
Yep.
we said if they would have just put all their eggs in either basket, if you would have given me the whimsical Magooey kids story, sure. But we have no identity.
yeah.
So that's what really
you're
screws
right.
it up.
You're right. That's great. I really liked seeing the naming of Sting, though. I'm going to pump on seeing Sting get its name. I think that was cool.
I will. I'll go ahead and pump on that
Yeah.
too.
It's tough for me to decide if that falls into the category of like, man, that's really cool, or man, Anakin built C-3PO. You know what I mean? Where it's like that.
No, that's a thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Bilbo named Sting.
I think it is cool. That's what I'm saying. I just these movies I feel so jaded when I'm watching them because I'm just like my defenses are up. You know what I mean? Like,
and I feel the same way, but I'm trying to Zen garden sift through
exactly.
the sand
That's really
and get
good.
to the good
You
rocks.
had no idea how much in my head. I should have just muted it because what I wanted for the rest of the spider fight was him just to be like Sting, and then it's just like "Boononino, just a castaway. I have lost that." Just the rest of it is just like the best of the Police, or it's like, or he looks over the trees and it's like, "Oh, Lelia, Lelia."
There is another song gag that exists outside of the world of Lord of the Rings later in this movie that I can't wait to talk about. But
Oh, good.
let's are we done with the spiders in Mirkwood? Do we feel good about that?
Yeah, can we talk more about what Gandalf does?
Yeah, please.
At the tomb, the tombs of the Nine.
Yeah.
So cool.
Yes.
The aesthetics of all of it.
Felt original Jackson trilogy.
feels Lord of the
Yes.
Rings. It feels Lord of the Rings, and the other things in the Hobbit that feel out of place really just feel like Narnia to me. It's
Right.
like, that can work if we make that our whole thing.
And what it takes is something that was from Lord of the Rings,
Yep.
aka Ian McKellen as Gandalf.
Yeah.
But because he can carry it by himself.
Yes.
He really can. And that's probably why we wanted to, is like, why didn't this trilogy instead just be, let's do this part White Council, do your things with the dwarves here, make that better. But anyways, when
Yeah.
he's like sliding down it felt like a video game, like Uncharted or
yeah.
something. And then he comes into the Tomb of the Nine. And so was it here that like the fight is also in this area too or not? This was different. That was like in the side of a mountain.
Yeah,
right?
no, he was checking.
So
the
he's done a
tomb.
lot
Checking
of
the tombs, see if the
travel.
tombs are empty. The fight is at Dol Guldur.
Okay.
Yeah.
So can we go there? Is that what's next?
I don't know if that's chronologically what's next, but we can talk about that.
Let's talk
next.
about that.
Just to stick with the Gandalf stuff.
Yeah, let's
Because
talk about Gandalf right now.
If one of the things that's
exhaust
irritating,
his story in 2 seconds.
right?
here.
If one of the things that's most irritating about the movie to us is bouncing around so much, we have the power to change it.
Yeah,
So let's
exactly.
just focus on Gandalf's story.
Good point.
This was beautiful. Like I loved
this is cool.
him going around and ridding. I love how everybody is afraid of him.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then of course we get to see Gandalf the White, who's like 5 times stronger later,
Yeah.
which it does kind of add some significance to that.
Yes.
Where a lot of people might have been scratching their heads if they didn't read the books of like, this doesn't make sense. He just gets to be more powerful because he kind of died. But he's going through, and I have to pump. It was really, honestly, it was almost a super pump. The creativity in his fight with Sauron.
Yeah.
Holding back the darkness, how
Yeah.
they managed to, in an environment that was pitch black, still embody evil somehow. And I thought that was so creative. And I just loved everything about that scene.
Yeah.
And him just fighting everybody.
I'm sure you guys know how they recorded Sauron's dialogue for that.
Yeah.
That's Benedict Cumberbatch speaking Orcish reversed.
Backwards. Yeah.
Yeah. The craziest, coolest. And it sounds
And it was his
terrifying.
idea too.
Yeah.
Which is cool. I love that.
It was super cool. And I thought I was going to kind of dump on them turning Sauron walking up into the eye, but I liked that a
Did
lot.
you know that is actually how he was originally written? Peter Jackson has admitted that he originally misinterpreted the look of the eye, and that in the books, like apparently the sort of gist of Sauron's eye is that his body makes up the people.
Wow, I did not know that.
I never realized that.
He's kind of making up for that.
Yeah, a little bit. And I thought it was cool.
Yeah.
Now, here's something, and we'll talk about it more in Fellowship especially and sort of that trilogy. Did it ever bother either of you how similar Sauron, his armor, and the Witch King's armor are to each other? Because I remember as a kid going, wait, is that the guy from... Is that who is who here?
Yeah, they were very similar.
Yeah.
And you have to dig pretty deep to find something that Weta did that you're like scratching your head about. But I agree. I think that's right. Because because of that, the Witch King doesn't really get brought up too much to me. Like if I'm talking about the trilogy, because I probably just
I
bunch them both together.
The number of times, spoilers, I guess, for Lord of the Rings, but the number of times I've heard people refer to Eowyn cutting Sauron's head off at the end or whatever. Nope. That's the Witch King, not Sauron.
Man.
Yeah.
No.
But we'll get there. Sorry, we were on Sauron.
We'll get to that line specifically.
But here's the deal. After that fight, homie just gets locked up in a cage.
Yeah.
And again, you're pushing me.
Yeah, that's
But
what's
I'm going to
tough.
hold off.
If he's a big power and your number one goal is to bring back your strength and might to take over Middle Earth, why aren't you killing that?
Yeah, that's what I don't get.
Why aren't you killing him?
Yeah. So it really feels like he's locked up because we need a way for Gandalf to not help the dwarves fight Smaug.
Right.
Yes.
It doesn't make sense.
Absolutely.
It doesn't make sense for the character. It doesn't make sense in the narrative, but we have to remove Gandalf from that scene.
Yes.
So we'll just put him in a cage, I guess.
100% you are correct.
Yeah.
But I guess we should talk about the elves now, the woodland elves.
That's our next adventure.
Yeah.
We got another Marvel guy.
Yep.
Yes.
Lee Pace.
And I got to tell you something. Lee Pace was almost my super pump for this movie.
Magnificent.
He was born. It makes me angry that he was not an elf before this at some point.
He was very good.
Was Thranduil, right?
Thranduil.
Yeah. But he was born to be an elf. That was perfect.
Yeah, it was really good.
So good.
And this was the most evil elf, I think, that we see. One of the most evil. And so that was kind of cool to have something with like such grace. And he embodies basically, Mirkwood's a little more wild. Like, they've got almost a dictator instead of a good leader like Elrond.
But I got to tell you something. I am normally a big Legolas fan.
Yep.
Huge Legolas fan.
Yep.
I hate the fact that he's in these movies. I really do.
Now, they do say, when I was looking at all the stuff that was discounting, because I needed someone to agree with me, and then they obviously knew more than I did, but he would have been alive. Yeah. And he did have a connection to Mirkwood, so they didn't reach too far for this, but I completely agree. It's almost like he forgot how he acted as Legolas.
That's what I'm like.
Yeah.
He was like way more bouncy and bendy than he was originally. And it's partially due to the CG just making him look like a super bouncy ball.
Oh yeah. They took the Legolas from the Elephant Tony Hawk Pro Skater from Return of the King.
100% of the time.
All of the time.
It's just him now.
And
with his horrifying CG blue eyes.
Ugh. I hate the blue eyes. I don't understand it.
He was supposed to have blue eyes in the original trilogy, but they kept forgetting to put his contacts in before they would shoot.
Sure.
It's like that's a continuity error that's all throughout the originals. Is like some scenes he has blue eyes, some scenes he has his regular brown Orlando Bloom eyes. His eyes just look dead.
He looks like an alien.
It is weird.
I want to say, we're going to talk about Tariel since we're here in just a second, but like the love triangle deal that happens in this movie is so bad, and I hate it so much because it makes Legolas seem like a petty character.
Yeah.
When in fact, Legolas is a character above that kind of stuff. Like, I don't just mean that like, oh, I think Legolas is, no, like that is sort of his characterization is forest for the trees kind of a thing.
And there was a way to have done this really well, because part of the creation of Tariel was the fact that they were like, oh, in the Hobbit, we don't have an Arwen and an Eowyn and a Galadriel, and like we don't have a lot of good female protagonists in this. And so they're like, let's create this. But then it's like they got lost down this rabbit trail.
I don't think the way to create a female character is to say we need a love interest, because that feels inherently reductive.
And my thing is this. As Tariel as a character, as an elf who comes in and fights and helps the group, I don't have a problem. In fact, Evangeline Lilly as Tariel,
she's great.
Perfect.
Yeah.
That's a pump. I think she did a better job than Orlando Bloom.
Yeah. Oh,
and
what if Orlando Bloom just wasn't in this and Tariel was in this and there was no
love story,
no romantic thing with the dwarves?
Or if there was, have it be implied between her and Gilly.
Implied, but the whole thing is like, no, the elves want to hold you guys here. doesn't have to be Bilbo every time. Tario can say, actually, I know of a way to get you guys out of here, and I'll help you. I'll protect you on the river.
Yeah, she didn't need that layer. She didn't need the love layer. She already has the layer of, I'm bound to staying here, but also it's like, no, we are the world. These people are going to destroy the world. We're part of the world. Why aren't we going to fight? Like, she had a
that
good
stuff
layer.
is strong, but
That's a
then
great
they
motivation.
just dump all over
It
it.
weakens
like
her
I am.
motivation. Weakens her motivation when she says, "I'm doing this because I love this tiny hot dwarf."
Yes. Yes. Which it cracks me up when they're just like, oh, you're attracted to like Killy is objectively attractive. Like, I don't understand how anybody's.
Yeah, how is nobody seeing?
Yeah, I know. It cracks me up.
His prosthetics fell off. Like, his makeup fell off.
They forgot about
Like,
it.
let's just stick with it.
It's stuck back in the spider web back there.
But yeah, a huge dump from me on the mischaracterization of Legolas as this like petty in love teenager. I don't love it.
Oh
I don't
my
love it at
gosh.
all. Because
That's
this is
such a
not that
bummer.
long before Fellowship. And in the span of an elf's life, what is it? 80 something years between this and Fellowship, right?
I think
it's around that time,
60
yeah.
something.
Yeah.
And in the span of an elf's life, I mean,
That's like nothing.
he even says Thranduil says earlier, 100 years is a blink
Yeah, I can wait.
blink of an eye.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was a great line.
Yeah.
And so, I don't know. Legolas is some of the fighting is cool that he does at a couple points when it is not CGI'd to death. But ultimately, I think that he takes away more from this movie than he adds to it.
All right. The next thing, I've been dying to get to this.
The barrels,
The theme park ride in the middle of this movie. The Wacky Mountain Escape.
Peak Magoo.
Before we get to the Peak Magoo, I'll point out Martin Freeman is continuing to do a really good job.
Yes.
Pushing me.
I think especially when he's like trying to open up the thing so that he can fall down too. Anyways, we'll get to. I'm getting such an energy from Jordan right now.
Pushing me.
But anyways, yeah. So it's
I agree with you a lot.
Super Magoo. This whole thing is crazy.
Okay.
So Magoo.
I'm going to do something that we've never done before on the show. Super Pump goes to Martin Freeman again. You took me there. Martin Freeman is my Super Pump again for this movie, and I have a feeling he'll be my Super Pump for the third one too, because his characterization of Bilbo is just about the only thing worth watching to me.
Interesting. You pushing me. You're pushing me.
So
Hold on.
just finished super pumping. My super dump is the
Wow. All records,
wacky
bro.
and wild forest elf
my
escape.
gosh.
Bro,
mountain
Bomber
log ride.
bouncing out of that river.
Although I'll tell you, barrel armor, I laughed. And pencil dive back into barrel,
Right?
I laughed.
If this was a
Oh my
different
gosh, that was to me, that is where my super dump was fully solidified as this scene. Like, that is the worst thing. Because I literally, when I was watching this, Adam can attest to this. I watched it with him. When that happened, I literally said, "Oh, great, y'all want some Looney Tunes in your Lord of the Rings?" Like, that's the most ridiculous thing.
Bomber straight up Nick Cannon roll bounced for about a minute and a half down this river. And I rolled my eyes so hard it made noise.
Did you guys like when we would cut away from our big expensive movie cameras to a $300 GoPro on the side of these barrels?
Why did they do that?
Where the color
loved
doesn't
it.
match?
No,
My
you
Super
didn't.
Pump is how immersive the GoPro was.
no.
I was gasping for air. I couldn't breathe in the river.
Just
no, that's
like
not my
just this whole thing feels like somebody at Warner Brothers was like, "Hey, Peter, listen, like people are going to see these movies. Disney World has like this whole thing, like
Maybe we can get in
Like,
there.
can we get in that game?
Yeah.
Can you make something that could be a theme park ride for us?
Yeah,
Like, can we have
100%.
Gandalf going down this slide to a tomb, and then like maybe the next room we can be like riding barrels and escaping from elves, and then surfing on an elephant's trunk? Like, that would be great, man. Can we do that stuff
It was just too much.
and
I
shoot the whole
completely
thing
agree.
with GoPros?
I'm going to say I think they went more towards the prosthetic side for orcs. This was a better orc movie than the first one.
And
Much better.
100%. In fact, Bolg, is that his name?
Yeah.
I like Bolg better than I
He's-
like Azog.
Yeah, he's pretty awesome.
And the design of having his armor like grown into him,
Oh, it was
Yeah.
just like
it was awesome.
painful. Yeah, it was really cool.
Yeah, the orcs looked more like orcs in this than just regular CG monsters.
Yeah,
Yeah.
completely.
It was wild. Like that river scene was wild because you have the two elves, all the orcs, all the dwarves. Actually, more than that, because there's also elves defending and then
Elves
dying
defending the
because of
wall,
the
yeah.
attack from the orcs. It was a lot.
Was this okay? I'm acknowledging that this might have been in my head because of the way things looked. Was there an audible boing sound every time Legolas jumped from head to head?
No, but I think there was something like that with Bomber.
There
Maybe
were
that was
boings for Bomber.
Okay. Is that like bombs over Baghdad?
Boings for Bomber. It's the name of my indie documentary about the
Boings
making
for
of The Hobbit.
Bomber. I love it.
Or it's like a charity. It feels like a charity, like Boings for Bomber. Like jump on a trampoline for 3 hours to give Bomber life-changing
For
liposuction
25 cents a
surgery.
day, you too can save Bomba.
Yeah, I think the Rivers scene was Super Bowl half-timed.
Yeah.
It was like, how many things can we bring together and try
you're
and
right.
just get people
And
standing
it is right at
cheering?
about halfway too, huh?
Yeah.
It's a super dump for me, but it's also just like, I think that was, you mentioned like the cliffhanger at the end of this was the moment when you were like, oh, I don't know that I like these. That was this moment for me. This moment was the biggest bummer for me where I was just like, oh no.
Not only can we divide this movie into pre-River and post-River, like right at the halfway point, but I can also kind of divide my life into like better and worse, like on either side of like never seen this scene before. Now I have and have to like acknowledge that I
have to
live
live
in a
with
world
that.
that did that.
Like that's a part of you now.
Yeah, that's like permanent, you know?
So let's please leave this bad river scene
Yeah, let's
behind.
leave the bad river and let's get to another river. How about it?
Yeah, great.
Bard.
Yeah.
We talk about Bard.
Let's talk about Bard. Love Luke Evans.
Love Luke Evans
Luke
as
Evans
Bard.
is so great. And that's why, oh man.
Here we go, baby.
And I feel so sorry for, again, the whole time I'm feeling sorry for Peter Jackson because
Sure.
I know he can do it well.
Sure.
And he has to think about everything that he went through, the fact that some things were still really great, extra credit
Yes.
amidst all of this clouded mess. I wish they had done more. I think it would have been so much better if he was actually the head bowman.
Yeah.
And have done that. You can have him go ahead and smuggle them in and be the
Yeah,
head
he doesn't have to be a
bowman.
smuggler.
You don't have to completely change his arc. You know, he doesn't in the book, he does not butt heads with the master of the town. Like
Speaking of the master of the town, that was almost.
Let's stay
my
on
super
Bard for a
dump,
second.
but
I agree with you.
Let's go to Bard.
Because one thing I want to say about Bard is when I see Bard, I see what Thorin should have been.
Yeah.
Well-rounded, well-acted,
Great.
cool. And not that Richard Armitage did fine acting-wise, I guess, but just
Right.
like,
given very much to do.
yeah. But I feel like Luke Evans as Bard was like, he came on and I got Aragorn vibes a little bit. I was like, oh, okay, who's this guy? Who's this guy? Let's go.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it feels like he can legitimately take anybody on.
Yeah.
And I know Thorin was that in the book, but I think because they tried to draw things out and he gets punted by a warg in the
Yeah.
first one, it's like, wait, he's not really capable of much.
No.
Yep.
He's just crazy and mean.
Well, and we have because he's crazy and mean, we have no reason to believe in the dwarves' mission that this guy is a rightful king and like we need to help him restore
Yeah, I don't want to see him back on the throne.
No, I'm not pulling for Thorin.
Not at all.
And that's
In fact, I'm pulling more for Philly.
Yeah.
Because I found out on that barge in the city that he's next in line for the throne. And as soon as I heard that, I said, well, let's just give it to him then.
Yep. Absolutely.
He feels like a better fit.
Yep.
yeah.
More level-headed here. But
So we're in Lake Town.
Lake Town's great.
Let's
Love
now-
the music associated
Yes.
with. Love
Yes.
the way that it looks. It's
Yes.
like a dumpy Venice.
yes.
Yes.
It's really cool.
But the
Master of the town.
Mayor McCheese.
Mayor McCheese and the unibrown henchman.
Oh my gosh.
Their Google was filled with, is that Wormtongue? It was way too close to Wormtongue. Alfred was almost my collective super dump.
I
His
thought,
name is Alfred.
is it really?
Yes, it
Yes.
is.
I thought the mayor of town, I thought it was Piers Morgan for a second. It doesn't look a little bit like
It does
him?
look like
does.
Piers Morgan, yeah.
But I mean,
There's
just no need for this.
That's Victorian. Like that is not Lord of the Rings. You know what I mean? Like that is like American colonial era, and Lord of the Rings is like Middle Ages, medieval. Like
It's like they tried to make another Steward of Gondor.
yes,
Yeah.
Because his hall and everything is just gray wall. Like it's perfect for the realms of man. Like
Yeah.
nobody does that.
Yeah.
yeah.
His whole thing was annoying, and it felt like such a cop out when they arrested Bard. He said, "What am I arrested for? Whatever the king wants." It's just like, oh, okay, well,
Yeah.
you just needed
It's just a
an
plot
antagonist.
device. Yeah. Like that's the thing. When we stretch this out into 3 movies, we have to have so many. We have to elevate so many minor characters to large antagonistic roles, and just doesn't hold up.
And it feels dumb to me to sort of minimize the like what gets them to the mountain in their quest to we'll give you some gold for it, and this greedy guy's just like, yes, of course. Like it's just dumb.
Yeah.
I don't know. He and sort of the general vibe of Lake Town and like the scenes that happen there was almost my super dump,
Yeah.
to be honest.
Yeah.
But are we going to jump to the mountain now?
So they get a hero's send off. They're sponsored and endorsed by Lake Town. If you go to laketown.com/Hobbit friends, you probably get a discount on your mustache wax or something that the Master of Lake Town uses.
Yes.
So they have a new sponsor now. They got a bunch of cool, tiny, child-size armor that they had laying around in Lake Town.
They make Killy stay behind, and then for some reason Thorin doesn't realize he's being a jerk when like half the crew is also like, well, if he's staying, I'm staying.
Yeah.
And Thorin's just like, onward. And so
is that what we're supposed to feel then? Are we supposed to be like Thorin's out of control at this point?
To me, it felt like
so close to the stone.
To me, it felt like it started out as Killy, you need rest and you will slow us down. But it also felt like once the other people were like, well, if he's not going, I'm not going, Thorin should have said, okay, maybe I'll reevaluate.
Yeah, so Thorin's choosing his mission over his friends, but that's not like made super clear. And I don't know how that, like it's not a proximity thing to the Arkenstone. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah, it's weird.
But we finally get to the mountain. We climb up. We get our climactic scene of the keyhole.
Yeah.
Which is
They
crazy
give
to
up
me.
super easily.
So fast.
Yeah.
Just so fast.
Yeah.
But this scene of Bilbo and what we're about to go into with Bilbo in the room with Smaug brings me to my super dump, actually.
I also, and I don't want to like mess up your super dump.
No,
but
mess it up.
love, is it Dwalin, who's the old dwarf? I love the scenes with him and Bilbo. I think those are actually those are really sweet. And I think he was the best dwarf.
I agree.
Is it Dwalin or Balin?
I think it's Balin.
I think it's Balin.
Is it Balin?
Yeah.
Dwalin's the bald one with the tattoos and stuff.
Yeah, that mean one.
Yeah.
Okay, but yeah, his scenes with Bilbo,
I agree.
he's looking at Bilbo through the Gandalf lens.
Yes,
now.
exactly.
And I think if we had more of that, which the book does,
Yep.
but I thought that was great for them to take those liberties.
I think you actually just enhanced my super dump.
Oh, great.
Because my super dump is that for a movie named after him, there's barely any Bilbo in this. This movie seems to be about Thorin and Gandalf, but almost not really even about Gandalf. And so my super dump is that, in my opinion, the two greatest strengths of this series, Gandalf and Bilbo, both take a back seat to a bad dwarf king as the main character of this movie.
Yeah.
And that really frustrated me. I kept watching, and we get this wonderful sequence of Bilbo inside the mountain in the hall.
Yeah.
And you know, there's some stuff we'll talk about there, but his acting specifically, Martin Freeman in this moment, you know, his sit down and kneel when Smaug starts to move and all of this stuff. He's so funny and he's so vibrant.
Yeah.
And what that scene made me realize is that that's what this movie had been missing for the entire hour 45 leading up.
Where's our Hobbit?
Yeah. Where's our titular Hobbit?
Yeah.
And then also the other best character, Gandalf, maybe on screen for 18 minutes of
It's
this
in a
movie.
birdcage, though. Don't worry.
Yeah.
He'll be okay.
And so I wanted to get my super dump out of the way quickly because we're coming up on something else important to me. Let's talk about Inside of the Misty Mountain.
Yeah.
Super Pump. Is it yours too?
It is mine too, but one very specific thing. So you go first.
Well, just as much as, you know, you would hope. And I think we have seen again Peter Jackson's love for the series.
Yeah.
And he said, this is where I'll put my energy and I won't let anyone else touch this. Very much what my super pump was with Bilbo and Smeagol and their interaction. We have every single scene that is Bilbo and Smaug. And then Smaug for different reasons too. I think they did a great job with the CGI on Smaug. But their interactions between Benedict Cumberbatch and Martin Freeman were, you could tell they've worked together before.
Yes.
So a lot of things fell into place and it was a perfect storm for something that was redeeming about this movie.
And Smaug as a character and as an on-screen entity, just sort of everything embodying Smaug. Super pump.
Yeah.
Maybe the best special effect I have ever seen.
Yeah, it was really, really convincing.
Now,
phenomenal.
let's not, we don't, I'm not
it was
including,
really mostly convincing.
I'm not including the environment around him.
Yeah.
I am just including, cut out Smaug. That is what I'm talking about.
The way his belly lights up before he breathes fire.
His eyes were horrifying. His voice was amazing. He looked present in the room.
I actually do want to give a big pump on how well they animated him speaking.
Yes.
Because that's the tricky thing with stuff like this is that reptiles don't have lips.
Yeah.
And so it is super hard to convincingly animate a like crocodilian, reptile, snake looking thing speaking human words.
You know, they
killed it.
mocapped Benedict Cumberbatch for his
They did,
face.
yeah.
Crawling around
and
on
it's
that
worth a
soundstage.
watch.
Yeah.
It's
Oh my
really,
God. Really cool.
very immersive. But yeah, they somehow managed to do that without it looking like a cartoon too, and that was brilliant.
And he was, I mean, genuinely horrifying to me. Something about something that big, like unsettles my stomach.
Yeah.
Like watching him move and stalk and the giant claws like wrap around things. I would watch and go, ugh. And I loved it. So Smaug as an entity.
And they
easy,
actually did a
super
great
pumped.
job of the treasure room. I think with just its sea of gold and everything.
Yes.
I actually really enjoyed that.
I enjoyed it too, except for the times where it became abundantly clear that none of it existed. Like there were these scenes and these moments where it looked great, and then there were other scenes where it was clear that like it was all not real. And I don't know how to say that the right way.
I think the close-ups looked good because the close-ups were very likely a mix of some practical set with CG backgrounds. The wide shots were entirely CG with maybe a plate of the actor put in there, and those are the things that looked really off to me.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And by the time the dwarves come in and start to help Bilbo in his quest for the Arkenstone, which the Arkenstone is one of the Silmarils, right? That's the thing, right? That's why it's so... Am I wrong about this?
I have no idea.
That this is just a lack of my research on that. I don't think I knew that.
I thought it. I think it is, but I could be completely wrong.
Yeah.
Let us know if I'm a dum-dum at 2 chunks.
Yeah.
Well, so something that happens here is, I don't know of a good analogy. I feel like y'all have been hitting on the analogies recently, so maybe you can throw one in. But something happens. So Arkenstone and the pull that it has on Thorin is so very similar and intentional to what the ring would probably have on Bilbo.
Right.
So now you've got two people with the same script, and one of them is varsity and one of them is middle school.
Yeah.
Like it is like the way that Martin Freeman shows the influence of this item on his life.
Yeah.
To where the one trick pony, that is the way Thorin shows, I'm going bonkers for this stone.
No, that's a great point.
makes him look so much worse.
Yeah.
The way
that's a
that
great
Martin
point.
Freeman shows it, I forgot to pump on that when we were in Spider Forest, but like whenever he loses the ring and like has to go grab it back and kills that trapdoor spider, and then the moment when he looks at the ring and he's so excited to have it back, and then you see the realization on his face, he's like horrified, like,
I'm like Gollum
what
now.
have I become?
Yeah.
It's just this ring. Like,
that is
so
good. That's a
good.
great point. But I think that further separates the two performances.
Exactly.
I completely agree with you.
Yeah.
So it's like this weird mix of pump and dump.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah,
So
absolutely. But do we even want to dignify dumping gold all over Smaug with...
Super Magoo, this whole thing, like how on
Like
earth?
that big butter statue.
Dude,
How on
the
earth did they have
melted
so
gold
much
looks
time
so
for
bad.
all of this?
I know.
Like visually, this was cool. Like, wow, you pulled this off. But
But they didn't is the
he
thing.
felt like inside of the mountain crumbled with Bilbo on it, and he was fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he just rolled it off.
Yeah.
Like a stunt double or something.
Yeah.
And then the whole like, let's do something that normally it takes hundreds of dwarves to, like you made a 8-story gold cast of a dwarf king
Yeah.
in, it felt like what was
Like a
supposed to be
couple of minutes.
real time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ridiculous.
All the while, back in Lake Town, we have these 2 elves, CGI Power Ranger fighting these orcs.
Oh, I forgot that's even in this movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they're fighting the orcs
Man, that's a
and
bummer.
I know.
and you know who doesn't get to be a part of the fight?
Bard.
Because they locked him up already? Bard. So you're telling me really the only fight that we get to see, I had forgotten they don't give us any really fighting Bard in this.
Yeah.
Until the next one, which actually probably the only thing we ever get to see him do is a giant crossbow.
Yep.
What
Yeah.
a bummer.
Yep.
Yeah.
And a waste of Luke Evans towards the end of this movie.
Like the
too.
only thing that they do to give us credit to be like, here's your hero, look how good he is at aiming, is he shot a rock out of a dwarf's hands.
Yes. And he is a good aimer too.
Yeah.
Quite the aimer.
Quite the aimer. That boy's aim is
So
choice.
Tariel heals her dwarf boyfriend with
And we don't really get to watch
some
it, do we?
weeds from a pig's mouth, right?
So how much dumber does that make the line, it was a privilege to get to witness this,
Yeah.
when we, the
I think
audience...
the dumbest line of all has got to be the whole exchange of, you're not really here. You can't be. If you were here, I would tell you. You're beautiful and I love
Dude, this love story is poo-poo from a diaper.
And you don't need it. We are not poo-pooing on Tariel.
We don't.
We're poo-pooing on what they did, right?
Yes.
I'm not going to put words in your mouths.
No.
Right?
I want to
Tariel,
reiterate.
but like there's like we devote so much time to reducing her character to this damseled love interest.
I'll say this. The fact that she can even be cool at sometimes is a testament to like what could have been.
I think it's a testament to Evangeline Lilly more
she's a
than it's a
fantastic
testament
actor.
to the writers.
Yeah. No, I agree. I agree with that. But I remember hearing Killy do that weird poem. I don't know what to call it.
Yeah.
And I remember hearing him do it and just being disappointed. That was bad.
I think that's a good way to describe this movie.
Yeah.
I think that it's not so much.
I'm not
like,
mad.
I'm not mad. I'm just so
disappointed.
like it's part of something that I love. You know what I mean? Like so it's a part of this canon of cinematic Lord of the Rings. And so like I love it, but it's like I don't really like it. You know what I mean?
You know what I realized was the engine behind me getting excited in this movie was being like reminding myself, oh, I remember how good the actual trilogy is. We're getting closer.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of my anticipation and a lot of enjoying this movie almost felt fabricated because it was like, I know what is to come.
I told that to Callie last night.
Can't wait to be there.
I literally was like, every time I watch a Hobbit, all I want to do is just put on the real Lord of the Rings trilogy.
Oh, yeah.
And watching blue-eyed, 5 o'clock shadow, weird CG young Legolas.
Yes.
Makes me want to watch. Callie literally said, is that guy supposed to look like Orlando Bloom? And I said, that is Orlando Bloom. And she goes, no. And she had to look it up.
Yo, and from the very beginning of this entire, like, Do You Believe in Magic series, we have said people were so worried about, like, here's your confirmation. People were so worried about the Harry Potter stuff. With we have leading the way in acting 3 11-year-old kids.
Oh gosh, yeah.
And they are kicking the Hobbit's butt.
Hard, yeah.
That franchise with those first 2 movies is kicking the crap out of what we've done in this one.
No, I will warn you this. I'm not sure what objectivity looks like for me in the face of the original Lord of the Rings trilogy. So we'll have to see about that when we get there. But I can tell you this. The Hobbit, comparatively. And I think that it is becoming more clear to me the chasm separating the first part of the Harry Potter series from the first part of this Hobbit stuff.
So why do you guys think, and this is, I mean, we're basically done going through the movie, but we've got a little bit of time before we move into rating.
I will say first, though, even though it was completely like not part of the book, a gold-covered Smaug was pretty cool.
By the time the gold was on him and not dripping anymore, he looked awesome.
That was pretty awesome. And then he does the spin in the air and all the gold falls anyways. I like that.
So what a waste of gold. But
what a waste of gold, but hey.
Why do you guys think that The Hobbit has been, you mentioned this, I think, a couple of weeks ago, The Hobbit has been largely kind of just forgotten by culture. Like we've moved past that, but yet we still, as an entertainment culture, consistently bring up how the Star Wars prequels ruined Star Wars, but we don't talk about how the Hobbit prequels may have ruined Lord of the Rings. You know what I mean? Like what is the difference in goodwill between these two franchises?
I think that in Lord of the Rings, we actually have a source that we can say, we can go to and feel better about everything. The writing of The Hobbit. Mm-hmm. We don't have that for Star Wars. I think what happened in Star Wars is there's so much of an ownership of that because that is a pop culture icon because it is the culture.
Yeah.
Like Star Wars was like Boba Fett would not have been a thing if the culture did not love him.
Yeah.
You know, and so Star Wars this is personal.
Star Wars belongs to us.
Star Wars belongs to us. And so that's what I think the difference is.
Yeah.
I think people were like, I'm offended. It's as if we are Tolkien, you know, and we are saying, what have you done? But I think that's what the difference is because I can go read The Hobbit and get over it.
Well, and for me, and this is going to get hairy.
No, that's going to be next week.
No, nice, good. I should have seen that. At its best, and I want to be careful saying this, at its peak, I don't think Star Wars even touches the Lord of the Rings trilogy.
You talking about from a story standpoint or from a movie, cinematic quality standpoint?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Doesn't even touch.
Maybe even a decade ago, I would have been appalled by what I just said. But I think I've always loved both. like pretty much from my first exposure to either. I've always loved both. But as I have gotten older, my taste has veered hard towards Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
Not even away from Star Wars necessarily, but for me, at its best, Lord of the Rings is perfect.
Yeah.
And I don't know that Star Wars is ever that.
And I think the 100% credit is J.R.R. Tolkien.
I was just about to say that. Like,
because
Which is where the weakness in this Hobbit series
and
comes
it's
from.
amazing because what happens with Lord of the Rings, and we've done the stats before. I only did the difference between Harry Potter and Lord of the Rings. I promise you, Lord of the Rings has more Oscars than all of the Star Wars franchise too.
yeah.
Way more Oscars. And
Yeah.
especially, you can't be surprised that the three of us probably feel this way to an extent. I don't know if I would say doesn't touch because it's hard to even put them on the same plane.
I agree.
So
yeah.
maybe there's a different analogy for that. But if you're looking at a movie critically, and obviously a big part of that is what is it doing with the story? Lord of the Rings was just a better made movie.
Yeah.
And the rest of professionals and critics and a lot of fans feel the same way.
I think it's a testament to, and maybe this is on me for continually harping on this, but I think it's a testament to Tolkien's world building. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%.
He created this entire other reality and said, I'm going to write stories set in that, but they are all internally and externally cohesive because he had this other thing. Like the universe of Lord of the Rings is not just these stories because he had these other thing that he was measuring it up against. So they all work together.
Yeah. Well, and I also think to kind of circle back to the original question that I don't know if I fully answered, there aren't books that the Star Wars prequels are based on.
Yeah.
Right.
There is a book that The Hobbit's based on.
Right.
And so when the Hobbit movies come out and are bad, people don't go, Lord of the Rings sucks. They go, that interpretation of The Hobbit sucked.
Yep.
Yeah.
But and I think that's saved. But to me, it would be kind of like saying Nolan's Dark Knight trilogy sucks because the new DC movies suck.
Right.
They're just different things.
There's something you get.
Whereas the prequels in Star Wars are not.
Right. And Star Wars gets this energy when you're watching it that has nothing to do with history or nostalgia. It has the energy of nobody knows. It's all theory. What will happen? Who are Rey's parents, all that kind of stuff. And so that's what it has going for it. But for this, it's you were given this thing early on in your life where you've read this thing that you're I can't wait to see it.
Yeah.
To finally go there.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
That's
a
a
great
great
question.
Yeah, no, and I think that question brings up some troubling comparisons, but I think it's worth answering and
I
worth
think it needed to
thinking
be
about a little
said.
bit.
Yeah, that's good.
So is it time? Should we rate this
it
bad
is
boy?
time.
Okay.
Great boy.
Well, it's time to rate this movie, and here at Two Chunks and a Hunk, we have perfected the art. We have something here called the scientific cinema scale, and it is as follows. The best thing that we can ever say about a movie is own it, don't lend it, buy that poster. After that, the next best thing that we could say is just buy it. That's going to be followed by rent it, and then the next best thing, which would be stream it, followed by forget it, and last, but certainly least, the worst thing we could ever say about a movie. God hath forsaken us. Who wants to go first? I will. Oh.
Fight.
You want rock, paper, scissors on my...
I'm just trying to do
He goes first, I guess.
Yeah.
That feels intimidating.
Got him. So I cannot forget something. I cannot say forget it if there was... I've been kind of going through how do I view this scale.
Okay.
Personally, I cannot say forget something if there were parts that I liked so much.
Okay.
So it is a stream.
Okay.
I will stream this because of what we said about Gandalf, what we said about Martin Freeman of Bilbo, Smaug. There were just too many things that I enjoyed a lot to forget it.
Yeah.
So I am a stream. I'm not renting it, but I'm a stream.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm also going to give it a stream it for kind of similar reasons. I feel like Martin Short's performance, even though Martin Short...
Just imagining Martin Short as
Here we go. I'm going to have to put this in it.
I wish I was never Bilbo at all. Oh, goodness gracious.
everyone's favorite Martin Short movie, The Santa Claus 3.
I went there and I said it.
Oh, Smaug, the most desolate, the most...
Martin Freeman's performance is worth a watch. I feel like Smaug is worth a watch. Gandalf is always worth a watch. And similarly, for that reason, I can't forget this movie. But I also don't know that I want to throw any hard-earned buckaroonies at it necessarily.
Okay. God has forsaken us.
Whoa.
This movie would be so much easier to say forget it if there weren't parts that were good. But the fact that there are parts that are good makes it worse that there are bad parts.
Ooh, okay.
Like the fact that there is some stuff that's good,
It makes the bad feel
it makes
worse.
the bad even worse. And it leads me to conclude that some deity has forsaken us and sent us to a dark timeline where this movie now exists. And it is so bad and some okay, forced to share a movie together.
Well, you have killed the curve for the rest of the class, I guess.
Yeah, I
but
guess
that's
so.
okay.
Wow.
Yeah, bad. It's a bad movie, bad time.
Valid, though.
Did not like it.
I like your reasoning.
Interesting.
I'm like feeling sorry for this movie now.
Yeah, I kind of.
It's like when you've got a friend that's in trouble, but you're not. It's like, or like a sibling, and you're like, bro, you're about to get ripped off.
Is there anything I can do for you before that happens?
Yeah, what's happening?
All right,
Can you take care of your pets?
before we close out the show, we do have some shout outs to give.
Shouties.
We got 3 Instagram shout outs. That goes to Gabe Evans, Claudia Martinez, and Kristen Lupin. Thank each of you individually according to the ways in which you shouted us out.
Thank you.
We did have a couple people that sent in pumps and dumps for this episode. Colton Kingston's pump is the entire scene inside the mountain with Bilbo and Smaug. His dump is barrel riding down the river, GoPro scene, enough said.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Actually, enough
observation.
said, too, yeah.
And then we had somebody named David Blees send us in pumps and dumps.
Why does that sound so familiar?
I guess if you want to talk about a movie, you shouldn't have had a kid and left this podcast. His
1-2
pump
punch.
is anything that Benedict Cumberbatch gets his British hands on.
Yeah, okay.
His dump is that Legolas looks 10 years older than Lord of the Rings Legolas. I can't get mad at Orlando Bloom for aging, but he's ruining this for me.
That's a great
And then he said, will you shout me out hard this week? It's all I have left, guys. David, if you need help,
Parenting must be
if you need help, we're always here for you, buddy.
Oh, that's good.
And then our last shout out this week is going to go to Andrew Franco. Andrew emailed us and suggested...
James Franco?
James Franco's brother, Andrew, emailed us and suggested that we watch the Tolkien edit of the Hobbit movies. It's a fan edit that removes a lot of the things that aren't in the book. So I can only imagine that Tauriel is nowhere to be found in this edit. And
Interesting.
Kind of the weird cartoony things are supposedly removed from this. So I'll have to check that out.
Everyone knows when they're talking about a fan edit, it's not a fan of the Hobbit movies, it's a fan of Tolkien. Like it's called Tolkien fans when you're
Right.
looking at critics
Right.
online, which is just adding to our point. I'll shout out to Waxspace right now.
Yeah.
And I think we need to continually because we're continually recording
True.
in this awesome recording
Round,
studio.
what is this, 3, 4?
This is round 4.
Yeah.
Yeah, in this studio. All of Do You Believe in Magic has been in here.
Big fan.
And I think we do now. I think this is a magical place.
do
If
believe in
you're
it.
looking for a place to come set up shop, come
do a
on
little
over
work.
to Waxspace.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's our last shout out for the week. But if you would like to hear your name here in a future episode, it's super easy. You can tweet at us at 2chunks. You can find us on Instagram at 2chunks and a hunk. You can comment. You can DM. You can write us letters.
Think hard.
You can think really hard, and we'll
But, like,
probably
please so hard.
We'll probably catch some of that psychic energy. But yeah, we'll say your name here, and it's going to be fun for all of us. We're going to really enjoy it.
Yep. If you want to help out our podcast and do us a little fave, the best thing that you could do in that vein is to go on to whatever podcast aggregator you're using, find us, rate us, and review us. Honestly, that helps us out so much in being discovered.
Also, if you happen to see a big pile of gold, why don't you poke it a lot? Poke it. Maybe my hopes are, if you have not subscribed, you poke a giant eyeball of a most desolate dragon that just eats you. I can't decide if I would rather him eat you
you're going a weird way right now.
or melt your face with
Whoa.
fire. Wow. Because if you're not subscribing,
Carter.
I don't even, I wish there was a way to block you from listening.
Whoa.
If you are not subscribing, I
This
hope
is what
you
your
find,
world will sound like.
I hope you find a magical ring and I never see you again.
Carter, you didn't do my bit.
This is how I feel. This is how I feel.
It's just going to be pure hatred from all corners.
But for real, subscribe.
Yeah, please subscribe. That'd be really nice. Well, and Carter, since you're so angry about people not subscribing, why don't you tell them about something else that they can subscribe to?
Oh, our Twitter account has been super pumped.
Yeah.
it
And
has.
so we're gaining followers by the day. I would recommend doing this for many reasons. A, it's going to let you know when things are opening up for us.
Yep.
We'll have some interesting polls up there and saying, hey, what do you prefer? This or
this
that? This or that?
Or maybe those.
Or maybe these as well. What? A fourth option? Don't watch this movie. We'll also have some breaking news every now and then. So this can actually be your source from the three of us on some big stuff that's dropped in the movie and cinema world. And so give that a follow. I think you'll like it.
We got hot takes on things like Superman leaving the DCEU, Space Jam 2, Iron Fist Season 2. So check it out.
It's all back. And if we also have it opened up for Two Chunks, if you ever want to at our Twitter account, at us, please, at Two Chunks, and we'll help you make that decision on what do you want to stream tonight. There's actually 3 great movies in theaters right now. Which one should I spend my money on? Because I'm not going to watch all of them, and I'm not going to pirate things and go to jail.
Which new
You wouldn't
Amazon
download
series
a car,
should I
would you?
watch?
Yeah, which new Amazon series?
Should I
just
get
saw-
the chicken nuggets or the burger?
Right? This show won so many Emmys. I've never heard of it. Is it worth a watch? Well, it won so many enemies.
Enemies.
It's worth it.
It's got so many Emmys that it's full of enemies.
Exactly.
Nice.
Emmy enemies.
I have a good way to end this.
Tell me.
So next week we're going to prison. We can't really help that.
Yep.
It's something that we have
I
to
gotta
do.
get my affairs in order.
Yeah, we're going to go to prison. So I think we should come up with our best prison names right now.
Ooh.
But these are going to be. Can we go ahead and talk about Azkaban right now?
Yeah,
Or
yeah.
We don't want to take
Real
too
quick,
much away
yeah.
from that. So we're going to Azkaban Prison, which is in the wizarding world of Harry Potter.
Sure.
So I need a prison name, but I need a little magical content
Okay.
there. We are wizards, prison wizards.
Okay, so is everybody ready?
Yeah, let's go.
All right.
Sign us off.
For 2 Chunks and a Hunk, I am Barnold Moonscab.
I am Rasmus Chain Wand.
And I am Looney Deathbad.
Avada Kedavra.
And we are some bad dudes.
Avada bye-bye.
Come back if you dare.
Avada Cavadios.
Oh my God.